Good evening. I'm Bob Stone, the chair of the Underhill Selectboard. I'm going to call this regular scheduled select board meeting to order. Today is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. It is 6 o'clock here at the Town Hall, 12 Pleasant Valley Road in Underhill. This is an in-person and remote access meeting. It doesn't look like we have anyone in the virtual world participating this evening quite yet. We do have a few folks here at the Town Hall. There is an agenda that has been prepared in advance of tonight's meeting and been posted. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none. None for me.
All right. Well, with that, we will go right into the next order of business is opening public comment period. So again, we have no one in the virtual world participating quite yet. Is there anyone here that would like to have a open public comment? Please come up to the microphone. I think we can do it. Are we doing it up there now, Brad? Make sure the light is green by pushing that little button. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name and welcome.
Thank you. I'm Laura Seaman. I'm here really to ask a few questions tonight in light of how much time public comment is allotted on this calendar. I don't want to reiterate everything that I've previously sent. I believe I've sent all of you. Let's see, December 11th, I sent an email for the public comment section regarding the budget and a question I had asking you to consider an item about the employee portion of health insurance. Had no response from anyone. I posted a front porch forum. Basically the duplicate letter received a very large quantity of responses, all in agreement with me. What was alarming to me was the number of people who agreed with my ideas but said they would not publicly comment. They did not want to get on the wrong side of the select board. And I think that's really unfortunate. January 8th, the meeting that was dedicated to the budget, I was unfortunately sitting on an airplane in the wrong airport. So I couldn't attend it. I know someone did attend. I sent another set of letters to you for that event, outlining everything, my correspondence with you, some of the, I won't say pushback, some of the responses I received on Front Porch Forum as well as to my email. And then, so again, I'm not going to reiterate everything, but my question tonight, 3 questions really, or 2 questions and a statement. I want to know if you're considering this for the upcoming budget. And why I've not heard from anyone on the select board. The only people I've heard from are town employees who, for lack of a better way to say it, maintaining the status quo is in their best interest. I was looking to you to have an unbiased opinion about this. And the fact that I haven't received a response leaves me feeling unrepresented by my local, the most local people that, you know, are in our system. So trying to be brief. That's about all I have.
Thank you for coming in tonight. I'm not sure that the board is necessarily prepared to respond to your question at this time because it is a public comment period, not necessarily a back and forth. But I will say this, that I do believe that it was, your comments were considered as far as were they going to be taking under consideration. I believe that there is going to be some consideration going forward, but I'm not so sure that it's going to be taken under consideration at this point in time for this coming fiscal budget that's coming up for 27, 28, because we are halfway into our health benefits that we do offer for the town employees. I was not present during one of those meetings, so I'm going to now be looking at if any of the other members of the board want to respond, but I can assure you that after tonight's meeting, that a formal response will be sent to you on what a plan may or may not be looking like going forward as it relates to that benefit package.
I'll respond. I'm Patty Richards. I'm the vice chair, and we talked about your comments at the budget hearing, and there were questions relative to health insurance. And one of the things that we explained is that we have a subcommittee that is going to do a deeper dive and take a look at comparisons between what we do, what the neighboring towns do, and our drive is to make sure that we're competitive with our compensation package. So that's salary and benefits, and it's the whole package, and we want to maintain good competitive wages so that we don't lose our staff. And we, as we discussed at our meeting a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, there are some towns that are losing their staff right and left and having a very difficult time replacing them. Actually, it took us 2.5 years to fill the zoning administrator position here in town. It's difficult to retain our staff. So we're looking at the compensation package in aggregate, and we have formed a subcommittee to take a deeper dive and talk about this. And we have actually been talking about the health insurance package for a couple of years of what to do. So it's definitely not new. A new issue. It's, we're trying to balance the whole budget. And the one issue that you brought up that we haven't responded to is responding to a Front Porch Forum post, responding to you. And if one of us responds, it's one of 5. It's not the whole board. Like if I respond, I don't represent the entire board. I represent one opinion. So I think our practice has been to take the input and then we debate it here among the group so that everybody can hear the back and forth rather than engage with an individual and have the debate back and forth, because then the rest of the board doesn't hear it. So that's what I would like us to contribute relative to why we haven't responded directly, at least why I haven't responded directly.
Anything else, Dan?
I'll just say that Maureen and I are on the subcommittee looking at it critically. And it is an awkward time to make changes because, as is said before, it's an annual thing. Most of our budget starts July 1. However, the medical stuff starts January 1. And it's hard to change when we have to make decisions on the medical thing, just a little while ago. So Maureen and I are taking everything in consideration, and you can check on progress.
I just like to say one quick thing. So we had a communication I sent with Ed. Grimley was also here, and I believe a relative of yours, maybe your daughter or something, was present. And I said at that meeting that I would send you some comparables, and that's what I did. So just for the record, I did not advocate for the way that we run our town and the way we run our benefits. I was simply trying to show you that neighboring towns, what they do. So I just want that to be clear for the record. Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. They're not hearing you.
I did, yeah. You sent them to the sheet, and I think that's only highway worker packages. It's not every employee in that town. Is that?
Well, typically, I don't know this 100% for sure, but I do know that usually employees are treated the same right across the board.
Right. But as far as comparing wages, my point in my whole discussion was the compensations, I believe, are robust. I don't think you're underpaying your staff. And as far as the, calendar, I get that. I was in school finance for 15 years. So our benefits start, the school year calendar ends on June 30th, but somehow we're able to figure out that piece of it. All right, I think it's probably sufficient. If at any point anyone has a question, there has been pushback. I understand how complex these budgets are, and I understand how complex the school finance piece is. So that is something that I did not ignore when I brought this issue up. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Seeing none, we are up to the Mount Mansfield Unified Union School District Budget Outreach and Community Partnership with Superintendent John Muldoon. Superintendent Muldoon, welcome to the town of Underhill. It's nice to have you here. And yeah.
Thank you. And I just also want to give the chance for my colleague to introduce himself. Kevin is a long-standing member of the Mount Mansfield Board.
Thanks for the introduction.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, I've been on the board, I think, 15 years. Wish I could attend more of the meetings, but yeah, going forward, if you ever have a need or desire to make a connection.
Great, thank you.
And
I didn't catch your name, sorry.
Kevin Campbell.
Thanks.
so Kevin is one of your representatives from Underhill. And the board actually has decided we're really trying to foster more collaboration between the municipalities and the school district. So it felt like this was the right moment with a budget season and a superintendent transition this year to reach out and engage. And we're happy to stay in touch and collaborate on anything that might feel like we have common interests around. So for tonight, we thought we would give you some of the key information about our budget this year and then just open it up to questions you might have about that or anything else that you'd like to talk about. We're pretty flexible tonight. So I'll go through these slides relatively quickly, and you can stop me at any point if you want more information. There's some really rich context for this year. This is a unique budget year for us for a couple of reasons. Last year, we got really aggressive with our budget targets, and the budget increase was 1.9%, 1.94%. And this year, actually, as we've been operating under that budget, we found that we were a little too aggressive with that target, that we had some costs that increased in excess of that in several or even many areas of the budget. And so we've adjusted to cover that this year, but that does have an impact. That shortfall this year has an impact on our budget next year. That's about a 2.9% chunk of the actual increase for next year. Health insurance is also known now, so we know what the VHI health insurance increase will be for us for next year. It's 7.4%. This is the first time in 6 years that is not a double-digit number. It feels a little odd to celebrate 7.4% increase, but we'll take it. And this is one of the first years that we have a tentative agreement for staff costs for next year known while we were setting the budget. So this year's budget is hyper accurate. I'm very fond of this graphic. It tries to make what is the most complex ed funding system in the country very easy to understand, and partially succeeds. I always like to pretend we're District B in the middle that has no increase in our budget. And this just makes the point that we are impacted by the districts around us and what they spend. So in this example, one of the districts cuts their budget, the other adds their budget, and the overall ed spending in the state increases. And so that drives everybody's tax rate higher. There's a whole list of other variables that don't play into this super simple graphic, but do play into our tax rates. CLA is the one that impacts towns typically the most, but student count can play into it as well. So if our student count changes at a faster rate than the rest of the states, or if home values increase or decrease faster than the rest of the state, you can see pretty big swings in tax rates in different towns. And this is maybe the best slide in the whole slide deck. That flat line, that's our actual enrollment. So the number of student heads that we have had over the years, it has been remarkably consistent. More than 10 years ago, we had experienced a decline in enrollment compared to our historical averages, but then we steadied out and have been steady since. What has changed is the way the state counts students. So you can see that first line was the old system called equalized student counts. They actually kind of discount our student count in that system. And then they changed in FY25 to long-term weighted average student counts. And that is when they assign different modifiers to students that the state has studied and believe cost more to educate. So students that are English language learners, come from a low-income household and so on, they have a positive modifier. And so our student count increased, which you might think is a good thing. But compared to the rest of the state, we saw a very small increase in our student count, where most districts saw a significant increase. This is
John, what does the ADM mean?
So that's your average daily membership. Thank you.
And so that's the modifier?
So that is, so WADM is that the weighted average daily membership. And so that's when they take those modifiers. So they count every kid as one. And then if a student comes from a low income household, they add an additional 1.12. If a student is an English language learner, it's an even bigger addition. If students come from a community with significant rurality, they get a small addition because transportation and other fixed costs are usually higher. It's an accurate system, relatively speaking, for calculating the costs. But baked into it was a change that the state wanted to make, where more affluent towns are designed to pay more of the total share of education spending in the state. And so that has disproportionately impacted districts that have lower percentage of the student body that qualify as low income or ELL students. And we're actually one of the most impacted districts in the state. This is just a quick picture of our enrollment. This is very uncommon, actually, for if you're a fan of student enrollment pictures. Usually for a district our size, this would level out between all of our schools. So it's a little unusual to see significant differences between the grade levels like this. And this is where our structure as a school district helps us, because we're able to move staff flexibly between all of our buildings. And that allows us to respond and share staff even on a day-to-day basis. So that helps us make sure we get services to the kids that need it and keep our costs low compared to other school districts.
John, what is the -2 category, preschool?
Yes, so -2 captures students that are not enrolled in our preschool program. So they could be preschool age. They could also be what we call itinerant students. So those are students that qualify for services but are not preschool age. So early childhood intervention and things like that. I always say our budget tells a story of what we value, and this is a story in a picture. And this picture has been consistent for as long as the district has existed in its current form, which is as far back as I can go and get this data. The green is the percentage of our FTE, that stands for full-time equivalency. So that's a equivalent measure of head count for staff. And that is as a percentage of our total head count. And the yellow is the state, the average for the state. And so you can see we have classroom teachers on the left. We have support is the second one in. That's a general education support category. Then we have paraprofessionals, so teacher aides, special ed aides, things like that. Student services, which are specialized special education services, and then leadership, which would be mostly the administrative team and central office leadership. And so when I look at this, we're underweight compared to the state with classroom teachers, with paraprofessionals, and with leadership. And we're overweight in the 2 support categories. And so to me, if I were to summarize that, I would say we've consistently made the decision to have slightly bigger class sizes, slightly fewer classroom aides, run light on leadership, and we've invested that money in student support services. And this, can you tell that I like graphs? Kevin knows this about me. We heard a lot in the listening sessions that there are perspectives or perceptions about equity between our small elementary schools and our larger elementary schools. And so these targets, which are the lighter blue, this is our weighted FTE, so that's our staffing measure, compared to our weighted average daily membership, which is our student measure. So this is an adjusted staff to student ratio, basically. And for elementary schools, which are not as efficient to run as secondary schools, the target is 10. So 10 head count to 1 staff member. And in a secondary middle school or high school model where we get some more staffing efficiencies and have bigger class sizes, you would be shooting for 15. We exceed those targets a little bit across the district, and there's actually no statistically significant difference between any of the schools in the same category. So the small elementary schools compared to each other or compared to the larger elementary schools, they're getting the same amount of staff per kid, which is a good equity measure for us when we look at our budget. It doesn't mean that the programming looks exactly the same in any of the buildings. When you have smaller schools, and even if resources are distributed equitably, programming will look different, but that's not a bad thing either. And then this is just a visual for our staffing costs. So more than 80% of our budget is driven by salary and benefits. And the benefits portion of this pie has been expanding rapidly for the past 5 years. So 5 years ago, a family plan for health insurance, which is our most elected option, cost the district $18,000. And this financial year, it costs us more than $40,000. And we have no option over the health insurance that we offer, and no option around the contribution rate. That's all set statewide and negotiated statewide. Oof, all right, so I'm going from memory now. Oh, actually, we have it right here. Thank you. So this is a picture of where we started, which was a level service budget for us. So level service means keeping all the services intact, and adjusting our budget to match. This was a 7.46% increase in the budget, which it results in a larger increase in the tax rate. So that, in working through this with the board, felt the board felt we needed to consider some different options that contain costs. And so we moved from that to this sliding, Kevin's going to have PTSD from this line graph where we ended up talking about staff costs as a percentage of the cut to get there. And so basically the board originally set a target of 3% for the increase. The school district was originally recommending level service, and then we engaged in this conversation to set a target. And it worked out, the math worked out really well that between 3% and 7.46%, any movement of 1% on that line was about 10 head count out of the staffing budget. And this is an important way to talk about it, because setting an arbitrary percentage or dollar amount can feel easy, but when we think about it in context of the budget, it's really, we're talking about staff, and those staff have an impact on the kids. So we tried to contextualize it that way. And then we landed at, so the directive from the board was to come in at under 6% for an increase, and we came back at 5.99. And we did that several different ways. Mainly through 3. So we removed some operating margin that we had in the budget, which is something we usually funnel to capital or facilities expenses. Our director of finance came up with an innovative idea to use some money from this financial year to pay off 4 near maturity bonds that would free up cash flow next year and in future years. And then with $380,000 in cuts from the district. And I'm just watching the time, so we can skip that one unless anybody.
John, quick question for you on the fiscal year 27 budget slide.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line item, transportation state revenue. Schools get a chunk of revenue from the transportation fund?
Yeah, so this is part of the complexity. We have 3,300 lines in the budget that are mandated by the state. About 10 to 11% of those line items are revenue lines, actually. Mm-hmm. And so we get revenue from lots of different places. So for our homeless students, for example, we can bill the state for transportation for them. Oh, okay. It turns into this really complicated math of figuring out what percentage of a bus run does one student cost that we can bill the state for. But that's work our finance office does.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So there's lots of different revenue lines in there.
Thank you.
And some of those are,
They're not going to be able to hear you, Kevin. Slide up closer.
so, now I have to say something profound. Some of those, are funded directly from state, or they flow from federal, state to us, depending on, so you'll get to it, but you have our total budget, which comprises all the spend that we're going to do, and then you remove the spend that's funded from things that aren't property tax funded, and then that's what the ed spending number is. We'll get to that, but we're always looking at those two numbers, the total budget, and then of that, how much needs to be raised from property taxes, and that's what becomes the number that is most meaningful to us, because that's the part we have to.
That makes sense.
Do you have any enrollment statistics for children who are homeschooled, or isn't that fit in your umbrella at all?
Well, no, it does. That's an interesting question too. We have one of the highest homeschool rates in the state. And that came out as part of my listening tour in the beginning when we were meeting with families and community members. We had quite a few homeschool families actually come out to engage in those sessions, which was great. And we're actually getting ready to launch a pilot program around homeschool re-engagement, where we can work with those families to see how we can support them, because we have plenty of resources that we're able to share with them, but also talk about ways that we can help them and their children re-engage with the school community, which was something that was a direct request from many of those interactions.
Thank you.
So you can see here, this is a graph showing the history of the percentage change in our tax rate and the tax rate itself. This is the district tax rate. So you can see that valley is really the impact of state surplus due to COVID relief funds that were spent down over multiple years. And then in FY25, when it starts to increase again, that is the impact of those funds expiring and those surpluses being fully expended. And Act 127, which changed to that new weighted student count, where we saw that disproportionate effect here. And I should say also, related to any of these tax figures, they are really distorted. We report what the actual financial information amounts to for us, but then the state every year makes political decisions and adjusts the yield and buys down the tax rate. And so your actual tax bills vary much more than the information that we get to present. They're usually much lower than what we present in advance of a budget vote. So this is shows the impact of the increase in the current budget across all of our towns right now. So this allows you to see the impact that CLA has. So we had a 5.99% increase in our actual budget, our spending. Because of changes in some of the revenue that we're receiving from the state, the tax increase is actually 9.44%. So that's the district tax rate. And then that is further modified when your district or your town had a change in their common level of appraisal that was greater than the state average. And so Underhill and Jericho are the two towns most impacted by that in our district.
With a 5-town school district where each town does appraisals at different times, you have significantly different CLAs, although it's the same school district, the same education tax rate, what ends up on the tax bill could be much higher, much lower, because each town is adjusting for fair market value on a different, a different basis, right? So one of the challenges we have is when we go to a meeting with all the towns represented is to have to explain why these CLAs are different and why one town can be perceived as getting, higher or lower, when in reality, that's not where we're focused. We're focused on the budget and what the total number is, but it can be confusing. I would, and I've been advocating to try to get the CLAs to align with school districts so that there's just one CLA across all 5 towns. But that would require coordination amongst the towns to do their appraisals.
So for us, that's the story. We have some work ahead of us in terms of facilities. So we We just had met with a provider that's done facility audits for us in the past, and their assessment is that we have the best maintained facilities in the state, which is something we take a lot of pride in. And then he followed that up with, we also have the most or the greatest percentage of our major systems past the end of their lifespan. So we have some work in the coming years to plan for facilities improvement and major system replacement. So that was the crash course. We're happy to go in any direction you want or talk about anything that's on your minds.
I have 3 questions. Thank you again for coming. I'm hoping that the lighting in front of the high school can be improved as it's very dark when you have public events. And I'm hoping that you will, and the board will take special note of how dark it is in front of Mount Mansfield Union High School when the public is invited, and hoping that during wintertime events that the grounds will be maintained during those events so that the district doesn't have a lawsuit from a slip and fall when you're encouraging elderly people and their grandparents to come to facilities and events when it's poorly lit and not as maintained as some other venues that I have been to. That's number 1. Number 2, the enrollment. I'm an alumnus of Mount Mansfield. Brad is as well. I'm not sure of the rest of the people on the board, but looking at the numbers of folks that are from freshmen to seniors, our graduating class, I believe, was under 200. It doesn't appear that we are spiking in above a 200 for the freshmen to the senior classes. I'm concerned that the driver education seems to be almost like flatlined. And I'm wondering what the board is considering about how many driver's ed instructors there are and how many kids are being served by the driver education in particular, and how many people and their children are being serviced by outside providers to provide them with driver's education. When I was an alumnus back in 1990, I would say a large percentage of the class was serviced by the driver education that was provided at Mount Mansfield. I don't know that that's necessarily true. So I'd like to see data as it relates to the driver's education, and if we are able to service the students that are attending and how many students are not being serviced by and having to get driver education elsewhere. Number 3, I guess I'm going to come back to it and let other people have an opportunity and let my mind kind of catch up. But I do have another point. I just need an extra second to gather my thoughts.
Well, I echo the concerns about the lighting at the high school. As a parent of a basketball player, I brought that attention to the principal a couple days ago. He's working on it right now. Those LED lights that we got in the school were bright at one point, and they're not bright anymore. And they do need to be replaced. And he committed to getting those fixed as quickly as possible.
Well, we have one light pole that's been down for months, and it's energized. And my concern as a parent and as a taxpayer and as a state fire marshal is that, and I'm not representing the state as a fire marshal tonight, but I am concerned that you have an energized lighting circuit that's on the ground and exposed wiring that has been down for months. And I do not know for the life of me why that has not been addressed. And to be fair, I haven't brought this up to Mike Weston's attention because I felt like it's kind of open and obvious because someone even put a cone by the lamppost. You asked if there's any questions, and that's a question I have, is that I don't understand why, with the district, why we're letting our buildings not be maintained when you've had a lamppost down for that period of time. And when you have events and it's not lit, why that is. I apologize if it's coming across the wrong way. It's not my intention, but I do feel strongly that it should be addressed as it is a safety concern. If anybody else on the board has any questions for Mr. Muldoon, that'd be great.
I have one general question. Governor Phil Scott has talked a lot about education spending and the push for consolidation. Is there anything that in our five-town district that we could do relative to school consolidation in addition to what we've already done? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit, and we, as a district, actually, we're very proud. We have the lowest cost per student in the county, and we also have the best, or depending on the year, among the very best results in the state academically. And we think we excel in some other areas as well. But so it's a point of pride that we deliver that quality at a lower cost than comparable districts. And actually that has led to some unique collaboration activity or opportunities for us. This year we've started to partner with Harwood Unified Union. We've been, we actually have 3 different students that we've taken in on tuition and some of our specialized programs that we've built over the years. We have several from Champlain Valley School District as well that have joined the program this year. And we're exploring other areas that we can collaborate as well. Mm-hmm. I think the in the listening tour and the community questionnaire and some of the other survey data that we collected, there's a lot of anxiety in our community around the talk about mergers. And it seems like there's a lot of fear about not just commuting distances, but also you know, what we may stand to lose if we're merged in with a neighboring district. So I think the VSA, which is the Superintendent's Association, the School Business Managers Association, the NEA, and the VPA, which is the Teachers Union, and the Association for Athletics and Principals in the state, have all just recently released some joint positions to the legislature this year. And so we're hopeful that districts that have demonstrated that they're responsible and efficient can continue to operate that way with good results, and that the state will actually reduce some regulatory hurdles we face to collaborating with other districts.
Thank you.
I did have one more question. I'm wondering if the board or if you have ever been to Mount Mansfield Union High School between the hours of 7:45 and 8:15, and also between the hours of 2:45 and 3:30. And have you ever noticed the traffic pattern? And if you ever noticed any concerns about the traffic pattern and what the school district is preparing to do about those traffic patterns. And I would really encourage members of the board to witness that if they have never witnessed it, to go at those times during the school year to see how dangerous it is. Because you have students that are trying to leave campus going out where you have 2 lanes of traffic trying to come in, and you have students trying to go out in that same lane. And I really can't stress that upon you enough that if you haven't done it this year, you should do it. And you probably should do it maybe quarterly to witness what the situation is and try to come up. I implore you to come up with a solution to how to solve that problem.
I can tell you we have 3 campuses where we have a traffic problem around pickup and dismissal times. So the high school is one, Richmond is one, and Jericho Elementary School is one in the morning, although interestingly not to the same degree in the afternoon. And so the principals are working together. They actually just had site visits at each other's schools during pickup and time, and are working on the issue. I'm not sure where they are as of this moment exactly.
It'd be good to have a report back out to know like where they are with that. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Is there, can I ask a question? I don't know if I have time.
We're getting a little bit.
Okay, just, I'll leave it open-ended, but if there's anything, you know, that the select board is interested in working, you know, more like collaboratively on, you know, I'd love to have engagement more often. In particular, you know, where we're seeing the student population going and how we can, you know, the effect that the student population and the number of kids we have in our town and district is so impactful, right, to our tax rate. It may not seem like it should be, but it is. And things that, you know, that's one area that I'd like to explore and make sure that we understand that when we have a young population, the benefits that brings to our school system and anything like that. If anybody's interested in having conversations, love to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the time tonight.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the review and approve and sign the March 3rd, 2026 official warning for the town meeting. I think I have a copy here.
So the official copy is right on the top of that other thing. I don't know if you saw it, but yeah.
This is it, right?
Yeah, so it's in the packet. That's kind of what we agreed on. I did send it to the town's attorney to give it a once over. So we added a little bit, just tweaked a few little things. Mostly in Article 9 and 10, he thought that it should be clear or more clear. We talked about these items that are on the warning, but not part of the budget. So he suggested, put the words "to be raised by taxes" after that. So that just signifies where the money's coming from. And we'll make that perfectly clear at town meeting and at the informational hearing. He jazzed up Article 7 Wood for Good a little bit. And then he added Article 11, which was the pledge. That's his, that was 100% him. I had done it, but he just emphasized the first parts of the pledge. And that's it. We've got the informational meeting that's scheduled for February 26th, along with the meeting link posted there. And other than that, that's it's basically what's been in front of you the past few meetings. So I guess a motion would be in order to approve the March 3rd, 2026 annual town meeting official warning.
I will move that we approve the official warning for the Town of Underhill annual town meeting dated March 3rd, 2026 as presented in the packet. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Patty. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. You ready for the question?
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor of approving the official warning for the Town of Underhill annual town meeting dated March 3rd, 2026, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed with a nay? Ayes have it, 4-0. Thank you. That takes care of that.
Jennifer was trying to get in here, but she was signed in 3 times. Just bear with me 2 seconds.
I'm sorry, what are we doing?
Jennifer was trying to just join in remotely, but it's okay. So Russ, I kind of texted Russ. I know they're busy. They're going to be busy tomorrow morning early. So I kind of suggested, I said, Jennifer's not coming. Maybe you want to skip it too. So I guess we could skip over supervisor updates, but I will say that Russ and I are working on a highway safety improvement program grant that doesn't require a match. So, and that's to replace some deteriorated guardrails we have. So him and I are working on that, and the grant award is up to $50,000. And so Russ has had Lafayette come out and give us some estimates. So we're looking around 53,000. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we'll get that one.
That'd be great. So we're cruising now. If we're not,
we're on time.
Yeah. If Russ isn't going to join us tonight, we had to review and sign the 2026 VTRANS mileage certificate. That's in our packet.
Yeah. So I called up Jonathan Croft, who I've known for 30 years. He runs the department, and I kind of went over what we had talked about on the mountain road. Just first of all, to make him aware of the proceedings that took place and the return and the change of, well, not the change, but the fact that we don't plow it. And then I brought up the fact that the top third of a mile was not up to standard. So He agreed that, I sent him a few photographs just to back it up. So I've subtracted that from the class 4, which is where that gets put in, because class 4, we don't get state aid for class 4. Even though it's not a class 4, it's class 3, but it's not up to standard, so it's kind of considered a class 4. So I've subtracted that from the class 4 and I've added that to the class 3. So our class 3 state aid to highway will be increased by 0.33 miles. So just a motion to accept the 2026 mileage certificate, and you all have to sign it.
So move that we accept the 2026 mileage certificate as presented in the packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the 2026 VTRANS mileage certificate as presented in the packet, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next.
So we're still under the windstorm. So the windstorm we had back in January of 24, I think it was. With the change in the administration, we got word that, everything was on hold, and I spent countless days here going over paperwork with the FEMA representative. So we're back on track to get that award. And those are basically standard grant documents. These funds were already allocated before the new administration came. So it's been in the state coffers, and the governor has been very specific about cleaning up old business. So this is kind of old business, and while some towns may have already cleaned this up, we hadn't. But I was talking to a friend of mine who's a town manager in a large Chittenden County town, and he was saying that they're still trying to get FEMA funds from 2-3 summers ago. So it's not uncommon, I guess. And so I guess you could make a motion to authorize me to sign those documents. I signed the original. You'll see the documents I put in there. I had signed, or it states that I'd signed it on certain days. And so I'm happy to just continue on since my name's on as the grantee. So
This is for the FEMA DR4770 windstorm reimbursement documents.
correct.
So I move that we authorize Brad to sign on behalf of the town of Underhill the appropriate forms for the no appeal certificate listed as PVR-4155 and relating to the April 1st, 2025 grant list. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Actually, it's DR4770. I think you're skipping down to the next one. Okay.
My glasses.
It's
I'm gonna
okay.
blame it on the glasses. It wasn't my fault, my glasses. The FEMA DR4770 windstorm reimbursement documents. Yeah, I was looking at two different lines here. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And Dan, I
I'll
assume
second that too.
still good with you? All right. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, ready for the question? All those in favor of approving Brad to sign the FEMA DR4770 windstorm reimbursement documents, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now we can talk about the PVR-4155 No Appeal Certificate relating to the April 1st, 2025 grand list.
I just want to go back to the FEMA thing really quick. We did receive some money directly, so it's two different categories, just to let you know. So we did receive the emergency protective measures. This is just for the cleanup, just to clarify that. And yes, the PVR 4155 is something you sign every year. And even though the appeal period is long past and there's no pending appeals, the state likes this signed after the first of the year. So Amanda has prepared the document as she always does. And I would suggest that you just move to sign the PVR 4155 stating that there's no appeals.
Well, we
presently happening.
almost did that before, but
I know.
that was my glasses that interfered with that operation. So I will move that we approve signing the PVR 4155 No Appeal Certificate relating to the April 1st, 2025 grand list. And before I ask for a second, so I'm clear, that would be okay for you to sign, or the board?
No,
has
you,
to sign?
you should sign that.
I should sign it?
I don't know if there's multiple
All right, well,
spaces.
whoever-
It's in that other pile. There may be, if there's multiple lines, then you all have to sign it. It's the one pager. Might have got stuck to the warning.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a highway mileage.
Should be the next one.
That's it. Well, whoever it is, if it's one, multiples, I think we can deal with it.
Yeah, we've signed it.
Except for Maureen,
Yep.
who will
That's
sign it
okay.
if she can.
No,
later.
she doesn't need to sign it. Just a quorum signature. We'll get it in.
So I move that we do that. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the, good golly, the PVR 4155 No Appeal Certificate relating to the April 1st, 2025 grand list, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed with a nay. The motion carries 4-0. Next is discuss the possible fiscal year 2027 Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission UPWP grant application and consider setting hearing dates for proposed changes to the Town of Underhill Unified Land Use Regulations. If we're going to discuss this, I would prefer that we wait until after town meeting day.
For the land use regulations.
Correct. That we're on the eve of town meeting, and I think that that's a discussion that should be likely had with the board. If there are going to be any changes, that should be made by the incoming board. I feel. I don't foresee that the makeup of the board is going to change. So if you would rather.
You're kicking us out.
I'm not kicking anybody out. I'm just saying, like, it's a significant thing.
Well, I can just.
You may want to wait until having the public comment after town meeting, because we're going to be, I'll speak for it and against it. So the reason why I would say I would rather wait is because we are going to be already engaging the public to discuss and come in and have the public input for town meeting. There's so much bandwidth of members of this board in preparation for town meeting. And that's why, if there is going to be a change, I think this would be something that the new board could take up right after town meeting and keep going. But those are my thoughts and my rationale.
So the only thing I'll add to that, just as might change your mind, is they're working on round 2 of the changes. So the planning commission. So the planning commission always is the body that deals with the land use regulations, and the development review board implements the regulations. So they're in round 2 of some more sections of the regs. So it is possible that after town meeting they'd be finished with that, and then you could group both of those up together in one public meeting. Just a thought. Technically, once the planning commission has their hearings, the select board should have their hearings 120 days after. But that's kind of the way it goes. But
We're still within that.
we don't necessarily need to follow that.
And we're well within that.
I think we're past the 120
Are we?
days.
When did they have it?
I was going to look that up and then I got sidetracked. I don't know if it says in your packet. If you could just look to,
Was it August of 2025 we looked at this?
August.
Yeah, so
So
Dated
120
August
days would be
8th.
6 months, right? So that's
120 days is
6 months,
6 months. Okay, right. Yep.
right? September, October, November, December, January.
No.
120 days
February.
is definitely not 6 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
I need more of the glasses taken
I
care of.
had my brain cells going, that's not.
Patty, you're supposed to be on this stuff.
I know, I usually am.
So we're behind.
We're
Well-
behind anyway, and we'll see what the second round of changes are. The thing is, the reason I keep bringing it up is because there's 15-day warning that has to happen in the paper. It is kind of a big deal, and it is going to be very well attended, I think, for some of the proposed changes.
As we slice and dice and consider these, I would like to see us break these apart. And certainly some may group together more readily.
Yeah.
But I want the sawmill and the portable wood processing operation to be a separate item. I would prefer to be a separate item.
Oh.
It's my wish list because it's going to be a controversial item and I want to take good feedback from everybody who has an opinion on it. And that's
And not have it take away from the rest of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because
Okay, so before I guess we dive into this, do we want to take this up before or after town meeting? What's the consensus of this body?
yeah, I understand your points of pushing it till post town meeting. Totally understand that. But I guess the question is, do we know if there's going to be any candidates running against the open positions?
Well, so I don't know that, but so the other question is going to be, is that availability? So I know the last week in February, I am not going to be available and I would prefer not to chime in on vacation remotely.
Agreed.
And we are going to have a public comment period for town meeting as well. So if we're going to talk about this, I would rather be in person than to, so that's why, that was my comment about bandwidth, is just like, I know Maureen is in the same camp as far as she is going to be out of town. So not to say that the three of you cannot, do this. You're fully capable and willing to do it, but I think it'd be a good idea to have the five of us. So now you're looking at, if we're going to do this, you're going to be doing this before mid-February. So
I can make it really simple here for you. So it would be ill-advised to do it on the night of the informational meeting, correct?
Correct.
So we can rule that out.
Yep.
The only meeting, your next meeting is on the 12th. It would have to be warned, right off. And then the only other option would be to have a special meeting on the 19th specifically for that. And then you're in the town meeting. February is so short. So,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so let's push it till post town meeting.
but I think we should push it, within the month of March.
Yes.
I would just say.
I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't know how the rest of you feel, but that would be my preference.
I support it too.
So let me just kind of outline the process. So we have a public hearing. If you make substantial changes to the bylaws, we have to kick it back to the planning commission, just as part of the process. And then you should have a second hearing based on, your amendments. If they're significant changes, if they're small, like, non-substantive changes, that's fine. So then, let's just say there's no changes. You close the hearing, and either that night or at a future meeting, you adopt the change, the amended regulations.
So hold on.
Yep,
So just want to back the bus up just a little bit.
sure.
So we have the data from the planning commission on
Correct.
what they want. They've had their public hearings and now they're coming forward and saying, here it is.
Correct.
Right? So now we have that, and now we have to make a decision on when we're going to have a public hearing about that.
Correct.
Then Once we close those hearings, we are going to deliberate.
No, that's all done and open. This isn't
Right, so I guess
quasi-judicial.
that's deliberate, meaning like that's gonna be in front of
Yes,
everyone.
yes,
So it's open deliberations.
yep.
And then we are going to make a ruling on whether we're either in favor of it or we're gonna kick it back to committee, meaning the planning commission. And then,
Or you're going to make changes of your own.
right, but if we make changes on our own, we don't need to necessarily get approval from the planning commission. We can just
No.
make the changes on our own.
Yeah, you have the final word and everything. So, planning commission job is to review the regulations very closely. You know, they take public input. They do the best job they can to satisfy the goals of what they're trying to do. You know, they're trying to either bring these sections of the regulations into state compliance, or they're trying to make it more fair for the residents, any number of things. But so long as you didn't substantively change those regulations, you would close the public portion of the hearing, and then you would do exactly what you said, Bob. You would deliberate back and forth, and you would say, well, I move to accept these 3 sections as presented, and then you'd have a motion, and then if you wanted to make changes, you could do it during that process. So long, let's just say so long as they're not substantive, what happens then is there's a 120-day appeal period. So actually the regulations go into effect immediately. However, if someone wanted to challenge those, they could petition 5% of the town, get 5% of the voters, and then that would force it to an appeal. So that's kind of how the process works. Just trying to lay it out. But I think we can talk about it more, but it sounds like, I think it's, at this point, it's a good call to put it into March.
So is that the consensus of the board, that we're gonna wait until March after town meeting, and then we can take this up and make a decision on how we're gonna lay that out?
Yes.
Yes.
The line says hearings. We have to have more than one?
Well, that depends. If you make substantive changes, then you would have to, pass it back to the planning commission as courtesy. Then you'd have to have another hearing because you made changes, so you need to present a new set of regulations reflecting those changes.
And we wouldn't make those changes on the spot necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
We could come back to another
You
meeting.
could come back to another
agenda,
meeting.
Which
Yep.
really stretches it out.
It can, but what you have to put is put your faith in the planning commission that they've done their job.
Oh, yeah.
And, but as Patty said, this one particular one, should be separated, I feel as well. And, I talked to the attorney about that, and there's no problem in doing that. Then it doesn't jeopardize the other
Right.
ones that just make sense,
So we
that are
could have-
no-brainers.
We could have 2 hearings then, one just on
Exactly.
the 3 items.
Mhm.
They're fairly simple, and I think those could be contained, and then a separate hearing on the wood
Okay.
operating
I
facilities.
get it.
Should be done on different meeting days, I think, to keep it clean, so it
In
doesn't.
that case, I think that deferring it would be.
Yeah, and I would suggest, get the wood processing one done right off the bat, get it behind you. And then maybe the planning commission will have caught up with the second round, and then we could do all of those together. Because I think many of them are very, like I said, they're just bringing the regs in line with what's already existing with the state. Wait for Bob to come back.
All right, so it sounds like we have a plan. He appeared to be in support of that, so.
Yeah, I think at this point, I think it's a good idea. You guys could sign some of that stuff if you wanted to get it rolling. or we wait and do it all at the end.
Maybe wait so I don't mess it up. Sign something before we vote on it.
Right.
Okay, we're in agreement with postponing it until March and breaking it into 2 components.
Okay.
One being the wood processing and do the other 3 as a group.
Okay. So will to be determined as far as what that looks like meeting wise. Okay. Sorry, I had to step out.
So the first part of this was, so every year Chittenden County Regional Planning does this unified, I don't know what it stands for, I should know. It's the Unified Planning Work Program. So there's a few things pretty specific about what it's for. We did do, when Nick was here, he got the sidewalk scoping study done. So Larry brought this to my attention last week. Of course, it's due tomorrow. And he's thinking that, oh, let's just tag along and do another study heading towards Underhill Flats. We don't really have, I mean, while Larry's, done a good job of getting our preliminary application together, we don't really have any numbers to go along with it. So we've already got one grant in the works for the outreach for the village center. Remember the grant that Larry secured from the community development. So we have that grant in the works. We're yet to do any work on our sidewalk that we did the study on. So he was wondering if he wanted to put this grant in, or he's asking me to do it tomorrow, to Chittenden County Regional Planning. There's only so much money to go around in this program, and it's available to all Chittenden County towns.
What's the downside?
I guess the downside is, we have things we need to implement and work on. We've got regulation changes we're trying to work on. We've got the grant that Larry's already secured with community development. We haven't really accomplished anything yet with the scoping study we had complete, which, that was close to $80,000, $90,000. It just feels a little bit, so I will add, so in 2020, regional planning also helped us with looking at the entire stretch of River Road. And I can bring that study back, but we looked at, Dan remembers probably, and Bob. So we looked at like reconstructing the road, and part of that had a pedestrian component to it.
Right.
Talked about widening the shoulders, maybe making wider lanes. And I think really when it comes down to it, in my opinion, that's what we need to, when we finally get to getting back to River Road for paving, that's what we need to do. We need, I think, this is just my opinion in general. You don't really need a scoping study to know what you need to do. So we need wider roads everywhere. So whenever we're going to look at like, grinding the road like we did up on Pleasant Valley, let's try to, and the infrastructure committee had a thought of maybe box cutting out the shoulder and widening the road. So now we could have 10-foot lanes, and you could have maybe a 3.5 foot shoulder, only be on one side, because unfortunately the poles, Bob mentioned that too. It was really unfortunate when they reset those poles, they stayed in the line of the right of way. And I had no idea they were going to be reset. But would have been nice we could have pushed them back.
Over, right.
So I think we should just, it was Larry's request and the planning commission's request. I'm more than happy to submit it. It may not go anywhere. But then it's just another thing, and I think we know what we need to do. We need to make it happen. So that scoping study the study for the reconstruction of River Road, I think basically, just explained the issue there, that we do have people running and biking, and you need a wider road. So I don't think there's no chance of doing like a multi-use path on private property. That would be a huge undertaking, kind of like Stowe does with the bike path. I think it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they pulled all that off, but it's beautiful. But I don't think there'd be an audience for an appetite for, going cross country with a multi-use path across people's front door yards or back door yards.
It sure would be nice to have something that followed the river.
It would be beautiful. I agree with you, Bob, but
you had something that went from the Brownsville Middle School to Underhill Center.
Oh,
and followed the river. That would be
awesome.
Yeah. It would be awesome. I think it'd be used, almost as much as as Mills Riverside Park.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be a big attraction.
Big attraction, but
just
a big,
like the Stowe bike path is.
Yes.
big hurdle to jump over, because there was some outreach in the past, and like I said, there was no appetite for that.
Perhaps this is a question to ask offline, but I'm going to ask it online.
Okay.
If we were to float this idea, and I don't know, I haven't discussed this with anyone, but to continue on that thought, would the town, I'm sure would have to go up to the voters if they were going to offer some type of incentive to the landowners that own land that abut the Browns River to ask for an easement for something like that. I'm sure there may be some people that would say, absolutely love the idea, but there's other people that would say, like, if you want it, you should pay for it.
I think if I were going to approach this project, the first thing I would do is reach out to the landowners individually first. Just see
Test the waters.
Is this even, in your wheelhouse, in your thought process. Are you open to the idea? And if somebody tells you absolutely not, we will fight tooth and nail, then I don't think it's worth it. But if you had a lot of buy-in, it may be worth it. But then what do you do, like when you get to when you get to Westall's in the log yard, But that's not to say, you'd have to figure out how many people you have and reach out to them individually and kind of strategically work it that way is the way I would do it. But I wouldn't apply for this grant in order to do that.
No, right, of course.
Yeah.
It may also be, I know there's already been objection to widening the road by the residents along River Road.
Yeah, just widen the road.
And this might be a give and take kind of a thing. And I don't know.
Nick I used to have conversations with Nick, and he had grand plans. He's a young guy, and he always had foresightful things, but he goes, oh, wouldn't it be great to just have this multi-use meandering path, through people's properties? And yeah, it'd be awesome.
But they own it.
But they own it. Yeah, they own it. They own it. So I'm more than happy to submit this application. I don't have the bandwidth to put a whole lot of work into it, more than what's been done. But I feel like if you're gonna do something like this, it should be thought out months in advance. And we already received a grant 2 years ago for $90,000 right here. So your chances of probably getting another one are pretty slim.
What's your pleasure?
But I'll do whatever you'd like to do.
Brad, if we got the grant dollars, who would be in charge of it? Larry?
Larry, yeah.
Does he have the capacity?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's, that's the
carry it
question.
out?
He's part-time here and,
Right.
and, just because there's funds out there doesn't mean you have to chase them.
I agree.
Right? So, and you should be prepared to chase them. Like Bridge 7.
I would say we should, unless Larry were here to answer those questions, I am not comfortable dumping it on you to carry that out. I don't think it's appropriate that you would. And if Larry's not here, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, but I would say let's not drop the ball, but let's think about maybe, hopefully this summer or very soon, we'll be getting our, a little bit of work here.
Right.
And then once we start to build a little momentum, I just think it's kind of silly. We've had this scoping study for this. Let's not bite off more than we can chew. Let's try to just
Let's
deal
get
with
this
what we
done.
have. Let's deal with what we have here.
Focus,
That's what I'm
right.
hearing.
And not
I support
jump.
that.
So,
I support that.
and I'm sure Larry will understand. But I'm more than happy to help where we can, and maybe we could reach out, do some landowner outreach. So, okay, I guess that's all we have.
So the consensus is we're moving on. We're not pursuing that.
Yes.
Not this year.
Okay. Well, then we are at closing public comment. There's no one here at the town hall aside from us. And I don't see anyone in the virtual environment. So there shouldn't be any closing public comment because there isn't any public here right now. So the next thing is to review and approve the warrants minutes from the 13th of November and January 8th, and review and consider the employee paid time off rollovers. So let's go through this. Move to accept the November 13th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the November 13th, 2025 select board minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed with a nay? Motion carries 4-0. Next is the January 8th meeting minutes. We might want to postpone that because I was not here and Shara was not here. So I don't know if we're going to have a quorum or have a majority to pass that.
Yep, we'll do it next time. Need 3. So you don't have it.
Right. So
Yes. And I watched the meeting afterwards.
There is a happened to me in a meeting today that I wasn't in 2 months ago. If you've watched the entire meeting
Yeah.
and you've read the entire minutes, I believe you can vote on them. It's never my practice to do that, but
Okay. And it hasn't been the practice of this board that I've seen so far.
this would be the
That would be a change.
this would be the first.
I don't think there's no harm, and we've met the open meeting law. The draft minutes are online.
There's no reason to
No reason to.
postpone till
Yeah.
morning this year. Okay.
So is it the consensus that we postpone this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Put it on for next week.
All right. So we've done that. Review and consider the employee paid time off rollovers. So have some information data here. Here it is. It looks like Brad has 116 hours to carry over.
No,
100,
it's a little confusing the way it's
36
written.
needed to request action. I guess, do we want to, I'm not in favor, I guess I'll say this, I'm not in favor of people losing their time. And I hate to force them to use their time, but we do have a policy that says that there's a cap. So I don't know that, can you keep accruing time if you've gone over the cap? I think is kind of like what we may want to consider going forward as an incentive to, for the employees to keep, to go on vacation and use their time off, that the bucket is only so big and you can't just keep, putting time into the bucket. And I understand there may be some extenuating circumstances, like, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head because of my glasses, but.
I'd love to take time off. I just
So do we have a cap?
That can't happen. Like, so half the year, if you remember, I was the zoning administrator.
Exactly.
Right.
So we've had a lot of meetings lately. So, when I get you the packet, Bob, by Friday, basically that gives me, unless I have a 3-week break in between, I don't have any time. Like, I can't never take a Friday off.
We've been running at like full steam because we've been almost like every week. It seems like we've been having a meeting of this board, until the budget really has gotten done. So, starting like before the holidays, and it's just like, you go through the holidays, you catch your breath for a second, and then it's just like right back at it until we get the budget done. It's just like,
I want to take more time off. I don't want to ask to carry over time, but,
What would it be like for you to take 3 weeks in a row?
so since I've been here actually 6 years, because of my first year was just interim twice. In the 5 years I've been here, I've only taken, I think, 1 full week off, like a week in a row.
That's not good.
So I know it's not good. So, and I need to change that. So, I'm thinking about taking some time in March after town meeting. Anyway. But
don't we open ourselves up to a significant amount of liability if
absolutely.
any of these folks were to leave and need to be paid out?
Yep.
A large chunk of their time off.
Exactly. That's the reason cap it at 80. Right. But some are further than that. I'm only I think I'm only asking for 36 hours to carry over. But
Are you giving any hours up?
No, it would be, I can carry the 80 and then I get the new vacation at the beginning of the year. So not giving any up.
Okay, just want to make sure that you're not.
No.
Because the numbers are a little, vacation carryover 116, then 36 need request for action. I want to make sure that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm giving any up because I'm carrying more than 80. It's like 116 is what I have now, but I can only carry over 80. So that's the 36.
I think we should, for Brad, whatever it takes to get you to get some time off.
Yeah.
And we relax the packet period so that you can take Fridays and actually use your vacation time.
Yeah, and
that's
I've never missed a select board meeting the 5 years I've been here. So I think it's possible that Jennifer or even Amanda could easily sit in on a meeting once in a while.
I think I think we need to be mindful.
Yeah.
And I think that this perhaps is going to need to, maybe it could be a subcommittee of the select board to look, maybe it's not necessarily the benefits committee that is looking at the health insurance and all of that, but taking a look at this, because this has happened in the past. And this is multiple years have taken place where hours are being requested to carry over. And I think that we need to try to incentivize people to try and take time off and use their time and not be in this situation, and then perhaps coming up with, you know, maybe more of a, I don't know, a rule that, you know, speaks to this, so that, you know, once you filled your bucket
Of time, then you're not going to be able to add more time to that. As a state employee, that's the way the system works, is that once you reach your cap, and if you don't take the time off, like, you're
You lose
losing
it.
time.
You lose
So
it.
And one of the things I also think I heard was that with select board every 2 weeks, but there are times in the year that there's 3 weeks between meetings. And that we as the select board strongly encourage
Yeah.
taking time off when there's 3 weeks between meetings.
Yeah, like we're coming up on one of those cycles now, although the town reports do. So
Yeah.
there's always
But there's
something.
But there's always something. Right?
You're right.
There's always something.
There's
that's like,
always something.
the sky is falling,
Yeah.
and, you know, a bridge is falling apart or whatever.
But so my preference would be is to, across the board, allow these folks to carry over their time. However, I feel that we as a board need to come up with a better plan to incentivize the employees to take time off, so that we are not looking at this same sheet, maybe with different numbers, come next year.
Should we ask for quarterly or 6-month check-in so that it,
That's not a bad idea.
Well, could we agree that we would like a quarterly report and like, task the employees with how they feel that, they can, how can they avoid, this going forward, that this is not a situation that we want to be in?
Pose the question to the employees and saying, like, how do you think that we should do this, administer it fairly? Instead of it being top down, have it be bottom up and have them give us their idea of.
I
How we
believe
should do
that's
that.
good. That would be good.
Keep them happy, keep everybody happy,
How would we solicit that feedback?
send them all a memo.
An email, memo? Okay.
Brad, can you?
Just put it, I could have Jennifer, she could just put it in the check or put it in with the payroll.
That we would like to have that,
Like you'd like quarterly
we want
reports.
quarterly, and that we would like to know, like, we'd like to hear from the employees. They can either call us or send us a note or a letter or whatever, but we would like to hear, we're soliciting feedback from the employees on how we can deal with this problem of people being over their caps.
Yeah, and I guess in a little bit of defense of the road crew, of course, they're on call in the winter, so
understand.
pretty hard for them to take any kind of a vacation in the winter,
Well,
but
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is it on us to say, like, well, then maybe we need to look at, so that they can take time off and have part-time employees, so that they can have the part-time employee cover them, so that they can take some downtime.
they do take a day or two here and there, in the winter, but they certainly couldn't leave for the week unless we had although in the past we've had, I think Dwayne a couple of years ago went down, had a funeral or something, they had to go to Texas, but we have backup folks around,
Right.
I think that would be a good thing to plan.
Okay.
Good? Moving on?
Thank you.
All right, so we've talked about the 13th, the 8th. We reviewed and considered the employee paid time off rollovers. We're gonna ask for quarterly updates and feedback from the employees. And I'd like to specifically ask everyone, but I would really like to hear from the people that are on the list.
Right.
Because the other employees don't seem to have the same issue that the people that are on the list do. Okay. That's that. Member
Are
items
we going to take
got-
action
on what?
on the
Oh, I thought it was
balances?
We also have two.
I thought it was a consensus, but if, I'll move that we approve the carryover for, the 5 employees listed on this. There's 5 total. One
Rest is
person's listed
listed
twice.
twice.
4 total.
Yeah, 4. There's 4 employees.
Sorry, I see it, 4 employees. Yes.
So hold on. So it's a consensus of the group that we're going to allow these 4 employees to carry over their time?
Yes.
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 Okay. So Brad, it is the consensus of the board.
Okay.
And with the 2 that we want to hear specifically, would love to hear from those 4 employees, opening up to all the employees and get quarterly reports. And if Jennifer could send that out in paychecks or write a memo and hand deliver it, however she needs to do that, that would be great.
Sure.
Good, clear.
Thank you.
Just wanted to remind you, there's 2 sets of warrants too that we skipped over.
Not yet.
Okay.
Because I haven't got.
Meeting's not done.
I haven't got there yet, so we haven't forgot it yet. All right. With that friendly reminder, we have a motion by yours truly to approve the dated January 12th, 2026 payroll warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
Any question or any comment? Ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor of approving the January 12th payroll warrant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. I move that we accept the warrant dated January 15th, 2026. Is there a second?
Second?
It's been seconded. Is there any comment? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the January 15th warrant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. There, now we've done that part of it, Brad. So we've done the warrants, we've done the minutes that we can do, we've considered the payroll time, all that good stuff. So now we're moving on to the next item.
Yep.
Next item is member items, correspondence, announcements. The next regular scheduled select board meeting is on the 12th of February. Anybody have anything?
Nope.
I threw a couple correspondence in there. One is just a thank you card from the Howard Center, which I appreciate. You know, it just shows that's a little extra effort that they go to. A few of the appropriations do. I put in the Essex Rescue quarterly report, and I also included your email, Bob, about the 250th anniversary that you had.
Yeah. I would love to have us do something in conjunction with the town of Jericho. I would love to see us do something around the 4th of July. I don't know if a subcommittee or Brad, if you'd like to reach out to Paula and see if there's any, what their feelings are about possibly doing something for the 250th anniversary. We did something in 1976. There's a picture downstairs if you really want to have a good chuckle. Yours truly wearing a conductor's outfit. That was 4 years old.
I didn't see that.
But it is down there.
You know, what'd be cool would be to do, because so I remember my mom taking me to the Freedom Train. I don't know if you remember that, but in 1976, they shipped this train across the country. And it had all this memorabilia for the United, might even had the Constitution on it, I don't know, but it had everything. So you went through all the cars, and I remember seeing like Judy Garland's slippers from the Wizard of Oz and all this stuff. I still have my ticket for the Freedom Train, but my mom took me down to Essex to go through that, and I still remember even looking at the, you know, at the ruby slippers. But how cool would it be to have like a little joint parade with Jericho and Underhill, and we could have our own little Freedom Train kind of, you know, might be kind of neat, and have memorabilia over the years, you know. I don't know. It is only 250 years, not a huge celebration like the 200-year was, but.
Brad, could you reach out to Paula?
Yeah.
If it's a consensus, I don't want to overstep, but if anyone has, I'd love to have you talk with Paula, and I'd love you to engage with the Historical Society and see what they can come up with for an idea. And I wouldn't even necessarily be opposed to, I hate saying that, you know, fireworks would be great to have somewhere in town, you know, to celebrate the 250th, but I don't even know the logistics on where that would even happen. And I even mentioned Tomasi Meadow, but, you know, but would we ever want to have, you know, something like that, you know, and then availability of people to shoot them, and I'm talking legal fireworks, Patty, not the kind that, you know,
Got the backyard type.
those heathens over in Cambridge shoot off in the Valley Road, you know, type of thing.
Over on near Dean Road.
Right. But anyway, if that would be the consensus, if Brad, you can reach out to Paula to see if they have any thoughts.
Yeah.
And if we could work collaboratively, and if we could engage the Historical Society, and then, you know, maybe we could hear back in the next little bit.
Sure. I can do that. I don't know if you guys had any trouble with your email, but Microsoft has been down. Outlook has been down all throughout the country.
Oh, I did not know that.
No wonder I couldn't get on.
I haven't had any email since
I
1:40.
was wondering what was going on.
These things happen.
A little scary though. I've never seen it down for this long.
Well, I'm glad that everyone's here. All right. Anybody else have anything? Once, twice, 3 times?
So,
Dan, I look to you for your favorite time of the
I
night.
move we adjourn, and that's the way it is.
I
Like
like
Is there a
it.
second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We are now adjourned. It is 7:37.
Thanks, Aaron.